A drive along the ever-busy Mombasa Road led us to Mary's home in easy, prestigious estate. The environment was serene and beautiful. This would most likely explain Mary's nature of one ever-joyous lady. She was born and brought up in a small village in Embu in an environment, as she explains, never thought could give her the opportunity to become the person she dreamed of.
Personally, I grew up in Embu, a very small village called Ganja. I grew in the farm, and sometimes I surprise people and tell them, I'm just a village girl. So I grew up in the village in a family of 11 children. I'm the second born, and I'm a girl who grew up in a very difficult circumstances.
Playing the role of a young mother to her siblings, she was exposed to tasks heavier than her age and thus making her vulnerable. However, she was determined and endured all difficulties.
You know, having grown up as a child who never celebrated childhood, because by 8 years, my mother would go to the Mothers' Union, to the church to do choir, and I would be left with her 6 children then. And honestly, I identify very easily with the children now. I mean, not very young, but those that are above the level of childhood. But let me tell you that at the youth stage where I was supposed to enjoy my youth, you know, I was living more like a young mother, though I had not birthed, you see. So in that, I learned to identify with young people as I watched my sisters and brothers grow. That was my first school of training, leave alone the counseling class. I learned first of all with brothers and sisters and the adolescent issues that they go through. My own life, you know, it is a lesson in its own kind, which I can do a big book.
This led her into putting much more efforts in her studies and managed to go to the University of Nairobi, where she studied her first degree in education. She then proceeded to do her master's degree in counseling psychology from Kenyatta University.
Number one thing, it's by God's grace. And then something else I'll tell you, that there is also the joy of working very, very hard. You know, you almost deny yourself all the pleasures that every other girl is enjoying out there. And by help of God, and again, putting so much effort, you look at yourself and you ask, what is it that you need to do? And if I'm supposed to be on books, I focus on the books, you see. So that enabled me to study. Then I went to the university, Nairobi University, for my first degree. Then I did masters in KU. And in all these things, I know there is God in it. There is also your part to play. So there was prayer and there was also my part.
Both courses, as she explains, have greatly contributed to her achievements today.
But I would honestly tell you that my first degree was just preparation. The experience that I acquired during my teaching practice and when I taught for like 4 years, that is what counts so much, together with the 20 years that I worked for the education sector, because I didn't tell you, I worked in the Ministry of Education, I worked in the Teacher Service Commission for 20 years in the government. So I got a lot of experience in education, and so together with that foundational degree, the experience, it has helped me now feel very familiar with what I do and do it with a lot of ease. The counseling part, I was motivated to do counseling because I realized people were coming to me and they thought that I would be able to help them negotiate the issues that were putting them down. And then I realized that I don't have enough capacity. And that's how I thought, no, I need to do a course in counseling. And so I did a higher national diploma in Kenya Institute of Professional Counseling. And from then, I chose to do master's degree just to ground the profession in my life. But strange enough, the counseling helped me before it helped anyone else.
Now a mother of 2 young adults, Mary has more often found herself engaging in youth issues, either in education institutions or in places of worship. She has been able to identify a major challenge that the youth are going through as being how to deal with intimate relationships.
That is affecting so many youths. Sometimes they get caught up with one partner and they didn't know how to negotiate through the relationship. So some find themselves compromising their values. So you see, picking that youth so that you put it, you reassure them, and so that they can gain esteem again, that has been a common thing among the young people. And I found it very easy to listen to them and hear their issues, listen to their issues of how sometimes they get mixed up when they are told, don't behave like this because you are grown up. But when they behave like grown up, the parents are asking them, wewe unafikiria umekuwa mkubwa sana. So, I like listening to them, being a shoulder for them to lean on. Sometimes they are mixed up on career issues, marital issues.
While in campus, Mary went through an experience that forever changed her life. She was involved in a relationship with a man who later became her husband and the father of her children. However, life with him has not been a bed of roses.
Well, after living within 20 years with this gentleman, not once that he beat me up, but we had differences. I realized that we were on different directions of dreaming, and those differences became so intense that they started affecting me psychologically. I realized I'm retarding. It was the choice of going to Mathari because I had reached a point of forgetting even the minor of the minors, losing sleep, not laughing. I would laugh and get surprised that I've laughed because I realized I was living in a very oppressive environment. I may not give the details, but I made a choice now to move on with life because I realized I'm not changing the situation suddenly. So out of the differences, I chose just to walk out of the marriage just to see whether we can solve these differences. So at that time he had left for Sudan, and because there was no effort towards making up. So that's how it happened, that though I'm a pastor, a born-again Christian, and a woman who is progressing, the marital dimension, I would tell you that it is not as what people in quotes would say, that the labor of a good marriage. So as of now, I live with the two children, and he lives in Sudan.
It was out of this experience that Mary decided to also reach out to women who could be going through the same marital problems. It might have been embarrassing considering her marriage wasn't the best, but that did not stop her from doing what she felt was right.
I would say for sure, yes, loss is loss. It's not loss out of death. It can be loss even out of a separation. The separation after being in a marriage for 20 years and parting with the same man, the two children, you can be sure that was loss. It caused me to cry, of course. It caused me to start asking, will I ever preach again? Will I ever stand out to testify about God again? But I got an assurance that for sure God doesn't change because of these circumstances. So when you ask me what I can say about it, number one, as a person who is going through such circumstance, as a woman, accept that that vacuum has to be felt. It's very normal to feel the vacuum. And even the children, they feel it. You see, it's not that easy. But it's not anything I encourage any woman to do, unless you realize you have a choice of depression, death, or life. Now choose life, you see.
More so, she surprisingly is also a motivational speaker and an assistant pastor. I was curious to know how she found herself in serving the gospel besides her full-time job with a Christian international organization.
One time in 2007, we were rehabilitating children who had been collected in town, and by God's grace, we got a neck of blood constructed for them. And we had almost 50 children plus who were in a place called Joska, a home called Christ Compassion Rehabilitation Center. And I would go to just offer counseling to the children. So one day I heard God in the morning very clearly say, I go and give those children an encouraging word about Moses. And I had already written the sermon, but I didn't know who it was for. So when I went there, I preached to the children, and straight away the children were glad because we started by sitting on the floor. Then the children went around and told the people in the community they have a church and a pastor. By the next Sunday, I was living near the city center in Eastlands, preparing to go to church. And then the caretaker tells me, no, ma'am, people are all over here from the community. And the church grew like this from there, which went up to almost 100 people. So I pastored that church, they grew, and now we've got the branch registered under where I fellowship currently. Yeah.
Isn't Mary an all-round modern woman? Anyone would say that she has achieved a great deal in life. However, this hasn't come devoid some challenges.
One of the greatest challenge is trying to help people see the value in them, but they are not seeing it. So I don't know what to open their eye. I don't know what to use to open their eyes with. That's a great challenge. That I can see the potential in you. I'm trying to stir it up so that you can be happy, you can rejoice in life and the gift in you, but you're just there lethargic, that you feel like, no, you know, and then I realize that is a talent being sat on. That is the greatest challenge that I have found at personal level in working now with all people, whether youths or grown up, you know. Now, the other challenge that I have also found, sometimes balancing the demands of the people to my own rest time, because every person needs leisure, you need rest. But there can be demands in the church, demands at workplace, demands even in the society, demands from your family uncle, until you have no life of your own. So that has been a challenge, but I have made a choice that I've got to look forward to get some time to rest, you see. And living a real life, you know, Mary is this real and bringing out the real me, like the writer of a book who wrote, will the real me please stand up? You know, I'm bringing the real me, but the world is so judgmental. When I say at the moment I'm not living with a husband, somebody would say, aye, that can't be a pastor. This can't be a good woman, you know. That judgmental dimension at all levels, whether a youth, whether whatever, without understanding the story from the roots, it has been such a challenge, because it has made sometimes that you've got to keep quiet and just assume and not tell people exactly in black and white who you are.
No matter the circumstances, Mary is not looking back, and as you would agree with me, the sky is not the limit neither. So, what motivates her so much?
Number one, I love God passionately. As a best friend, that's a great motivation to keep me living every day, checking on His promises, believing them and confessing them. That's my number one motivation. Number two, I realize that I've got a purpose why I live on earth. So the day I discovered my purpose, I worked towards accomplishing it. That is a motivation as well. Because of the vision of what I want to accomplish, I cannot die today, you know. Then I have a motivation of reaching out to people. You know, when I see your life changed, and what you are yesterday, today you are smiling, tomorrow you're moving to a better height, I feel like I'm in the top of the world when I see someone's life moving on and it would have been wasted. I think that is my motivation on the face of the earth. Yeah.
Life is surely very diverse. We all have individual ups and downs, but our failure or success depends on the choices we make or fail to make, as Mary advises.
So the tomorrow is so bright that someone cannot give up because of today's darkness. You see, that is the encouraging word. And so when God picks you from where you are and lifts you up, one key thing, never be proud. Remain humble. The Lord will keep lifting you up from one level to another.
Josephine Wawera, GBS.